It's time to head back into the forest with a camera. This is about a man obsessed with proving the existence of the mysterious Frogman. Does this cryptid take and found footage stand out, or is it just another example of the subgenre? Let's leap in and find out. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Ooh, ribbit, ribbit.
I knew you were going to ribbit. I knew, like, it was so obvious you were going to ribbit.
It's so fun to do.
This is a horror movie podcast. We get together, we talk about a horror movie. We have another new-ish movie to talk about that came out just recently on the services and whatnot. I think it's another one like Night of the Devil, where it was at festivals and stuff last year, but it's really the 2024 release. And that is Frogman, which is a found footage movie about trying to find Frogman. So we'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do, and we'll give you a warning before we get into them. Just before we get started, I'll say that if you are enjoying the show on YouTube, please do hit the like button. It helps us out a bunch. And of course, you can get bonus content, bonus episodes from me and Tim. I'll tell you more about that at the end, but that's over on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. So, Frogman. Were you excited for Frogman, Tim?
Yeah, so if you remember, we talked about the trailer earlier in the year, and I think I brought it up on when we're doing like our most anticipated movies at the start of the year. And yeah, this is one that been I forget when, but I had heard like some buzz about it, which is kind of funny because, you know, buzz buzz is the sound that flies make, and that's what frogs eat. But
bit of a stretch, I'm not gonna lie, but go on.
I'm very susceptible to marketing, so I think I saw like some trailer or review, or someone was like, "Oh, this is like your new found footage obsession," or whatever. So, and it's something that is very much in my wheelhouse, which is it's about cryptids. I mean, obviously, you know, I am the goat man. I love, you know, my big silly cryptid creatures like that. So you tell me there's a movie about Frogman, a big frog monster, you know I'm gonna get excited about that. So yeah, this was one that I don't know, maybe it sounds a little weird, but I was actually like really excited for and anticipating.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it until that trailer, and I thought the trailer was fine, but I think more than anything else, I just liked that they used Ribbit Ribbit in the music in the trailer, and the poster's quite good as well. The trees make the shape of a frog's head with like the light looking like the eyes. It's a pretty good poster. But yeah, it's a found footage movie. You know, it's this guy who believed he saw a glimpse of Frogman as a kid, who's determined to go back now as an adult and prove that it's there, and enlists two friends to go with him. And it's a found footage movie, right? Honestly, I was getting a lot of flashbacks to a lot of found footage movies, but specifically Willow Creek was really coming to mind as I was watching it, because it was, you know, going to the small town, interviewing people, that kind of thing, and then obviously a lot of stuff goes down in the forest later on. So
right.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, that was kind of like my vibes of it throughout. But yeah, I mean, that's the basic gist. We'll save anything else that happens for spoilers. But Tim, what did you think of Frogman?
I did enjoy it. You know, I'm a little disappointed that like it didn't change my life or anything.
I think that may have been asking a bit much from Frogman, Tim.
I was just like looking at my wretch of a life around me and just like, please, dear God, give me something to cling on to. And yeah, I don't know if Frogman was it, but hey, it beat just, you know, sitting in the dark listening to my own heartbeat. So there's that. So I'm expecting. I keep expecting you to jump in and say something, but
I've got nothing to add. You say what you liked or disliked about it, Tim. I'll jump in when I feel like you've exhausted your initial opening argument here.
So like I was kind of saying before, it does feel like this is hitting a lot of beats of things that I really like. Again, the big drawing point to me is I love monster movies. I love cryptids. I love these kind of urban legendy creatures like Goatman and Frogman and Mothman and stuff. So I love the idea about this, especially when it's something that's like kind of an obscure cryptid that not like a lot of people know about. Like, I mean, there's so many like bad, cheap like Sasquatch movies. So it's nice that we're doing something a little different. I would say, and it's I do like found footage movies as well. I feel like there's a period where we're getting so many crappy like studio found footage movies that it did start to get like really tiresome. But I love that we're kind of away from that now, and I mean there's still lots of like bad ones that come out, but I do like that kind of subgenre of horror. Sadly it's maybe one that's not always a ton of great ones, but I thought this was a fun enough one, kind of like you were saying, or maybe alluding to. I do think it does go through like a lot of the tropes of found footage movies, but I don't know, I didn't really mind it a ton with this, because I think the characters are likable enough, and it's a pretty easy breezy movie. I think it's like not even 90 minutes.
It's 80 minutes including credits.
Yeah, so it goes by fast enough. Like I had fun with the characters. I liked I do like this kind of stuff of like going through the town and seeing all like the stupid merch and talking like to the weird locals and stuff. And then I would say it does get like pretty batshit bonkers by the last 20 or so minutes, which that stuff I thought was fairly cool and worked for me. So overall I thought it was like a fun enough time. Unfortunately not like amazing, like it didn't put me over the edge. Like I wasn't like gonna jump to the rafters and be like, oh my god, like everyone, you have to see this. Like I do think it's a fun enough movie if you find it streaming and you're looking for something to watch, and you like found footage and monster movies. I feel like it can scratch that itch, but it wasn't like overly great or anything. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about Frogman.
Well, we still got the rest of the show, Tim. I hope there's a few extra things you make spring to mind. But I guess my one word would be, I guess it's okay. But I'm not feeling particularly enthusiastic about it. There's too many just typical found footage tropes. The structure's very, again, old-fashioned found footage. It does a couple of little things to try and differentiate it, but not too much. Amusingly, obviously I won't say what any of it is, but it does something at the very end, which I actually have in the past asked for from found footage movies. But I would say the execution left me wanting more. I'll just say that. But I mean, it's I think like a lot of found footage movies of this type, it does take a long time before there's even, especially in this one, I think it's a long time before there's a hint of any real horror, because so much of it is three friends who are, in kind of a weird place, and it does some character work to set up who they all are and like what their relationships are to each other. And it's mostly just them dealing with like the fact that this town that they've went to is kind of like a touristy spot because of the legend of the Frogman. And that's a lot of the movie. Like it takes some time early on, even building up to like, because the movie doesn't start with like, oh, this is the movie they're making about Frogman. The movie starts with just some happenstance footage of like what leads to the decision to make said movie. So there's even a bit of build up before we even decide to go to the town and try and capture a documentary of Frogman and prove that it's real and all that. I didn't hate it, but it definitely left me feeling like, oh, there's not a lot going on here at times, and it's doing a lot of the same tricks where, okay, the camera's shaking around and it's really dark. You'll catch maybe a glimpse between the pixels at one point of something that might be a hand of some kind, and we'll do that. And well, the characters say, "Oh, let's just bail out and go home," and the one guy's like, "No, we're definitely going to keep going," and like it plays all the cards. It plays all the cards I expect to see. So I'm not. I feel very, very similar to this as to I did with Willow Creek, and I remember you liking that more than I did too. To be fair.
No, I mean that's totally fair, and I would probably be less enthusiastic if I didn't like the subject matter of this. I don't know. Again, yeah, I can't really stress enough just like how this kind of stuff is my bag. Like I like like old folksy towns with like they're kind of like monster legends and cryptid sightings and this kind of stuff. So I agree with what you're saying. Like a lot of it is very tropey and just kind of going through the motion of a lot of other found footage stuff, but I think it just kind of worked a little bit more for me because I don't know. I just like the Frogman. I wish I had a Frogman to, kind of hug and cuddle.
I mean, power to you, Tim. Power to you. This still only has 685 ratings on IMDb, so it's not something a lot of people have seen. Yeah, that's not a lot, Tim. That's not a lot.
Oh.
It's just, I mean, for reference, let me just go to the front page of IMDb and click on a movie. Oh, Prey's there in my top picks here. Prey has been rated 228,000 times for comparison's sake.
Okay.
My point stands. Okay.
Are people rating things on IMDb? I thought you just like looked up who that one guy in that one thing was.
People rate stuff. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that this is a sign of how many in total. I'm just saying the ratio is probably similar to how many people have seen it versus how many people have seen Prey. You know?
Sure.
I'm not saying only 600 or so people have seen this movie. I'm saying it just kind of represents how much. Never mind. Like
Well, can we add our review to it just so it bumps it up a little bit?
We can both add our individual ratings to it if you want. Like, I've just rated it there. I won't tell you what though, because that's at the end of the show. But
okay. I'm just looking up the director because I don't know if you are familiar with what he did, but I want to.
This is Anthony Cousins you're referring to.
Yes. I want to look up.
Killing time until 10 things, whatever he's looking for.
All right. Maybe he's not who what I thought. I thought he did a segment on one of the VHS movies, but I guess I'm wrong.
No, you're thinking of Scare Package.
Scare Package? Oh, okay.
He did a segment on that. He did a segment on Fat Fleshy Fingers, whatever the hell that is.
I mean, that sounds like our next movie, whatever it is.
Hey, it's got I mean, technically it's a much higher rating than although to be fair, it's got a much higher rating because only 9 people have rated it, which suggests to me that the only people who have rated it are the director and his cast, or maybe some friends and family.
I did watch Scare Package, but I don't know the specific one. It says he wrote The Night He Came Back, but I don't know if I remember which one that was. Honestly, I wasn't crazy about Scare Package, so I guess that doesn't bode well.
We never did it on the show. I've not seen it.
Yeah.
You're telling me I shouldn't seek it out? Is that what you're saying?
If you really must.
Don't tell me what I can do.
All right.
I'll watch Scare Package if I want to watch Scare Package.
All right. Go for it.
You double bluffing me? You want me to watch Scare Package, you son of a bitch? I'm not doing it.
I want you to do whatever will make you happy.
You're playing mind games. I don't like this. This is manipulation. I'm not on board with this. This is downright wrong. You're getting cancelled. That's the end of it. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, there's no music to talk about really because it's a found footage movie. It's very much what it is.
Well, at one point they do play like a metal Frogman song in the car.
Yeah, but it's diegetic sound. There's no score, as it were.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot we weren't allowed to talk about diegetic music on the show.
You're allowed. I was just clarifying for the audience that it wasn't like played over the top of the movie. It was something like in context from the scene.
Of course. Yeah.
They also listen to a couple of random songs in a montage where they're like just getting drunk in the hotel room, but there's no score. That's all I was trying to say. Tim, you're such a stickler. God damn. Yeah, I needed more Frogman. Okay, I needed more Frogman. I needed a bit more of him early.
You can say that about every movie, though. I mean, what movie couldn't use more Frogman?
I mean, true. Like, yeah, The Godfather would have been even better had there been a little bit of Frogman. The Frogfather. But like, you know, like the small glimpses you do get of the damn thing are pretty fun, right? But it's
I love that stuff. Yeah,
but they hide it for so long, and it's so limited once you do get it that like, you know, I think some of the ending feels like a bit of a whimper to me. Yeah, that's
it's definitely like 55 minutes, an hour ish of pretty standard found footage stuff, and then like kind of a wild, like, you know, carnival haunted house, you know, one of those like amusement park rides where it's just like kind of like nonstop, like we're going from here to here to here, and like all this crazy stuff is happening, which I thought it was fun enough that, you know, it left a good taste in my mouth. But I can't overly sing the praises of it.
Yeah, I can't say I had a good taste left in my mouth, but you know, whatever. Taste may vary. If you're more,
I'll fix that for you. I'll give you something to taste.
Whoa! You want cancelled again, Tim? You want cancelled twice in this episode?
I'm just gonna send you some of my famous butter cookies.
Where's this butter coming from?
I churned it myself.
I don't know, you've had 2 kids. There must be breast milk going about. I don't want any weird. The wife's like, "Hey Tim, where did that extra bottle of breast milk I pumped go?" Nowhere. As you're just, you know, mixing like a baking thing together to make some buttercups.
Well, Peter, that liquid is sacred. That liquid is for the children.
Like you've not tasted it, you sick bastard. I don't hear a denial. I hear ashamed silence is what I hear.
Now listen, you know, sometimes daddy's got to get his milk too. You know?
Okay. Spoiler warning for Frogman, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm positive on the movie, but there really isn't much to say about it, you know.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of felt this at the end of the movie. I'm like, this may be a shorter review because I don't know how much there is to say about some stretches of this. You know, I feel like I can sum up large chunks of this movie in like 1 or 2 sentences, and then that's kind of it. There's not really much to add about it. So spoilers anyway for Frogman. You have been warned. There is indeed a Frogman. Just in case you were wondering if it was all a hoax or something. There's a Frogman, and there's you know.
I will say I do like the setup of the movie. So it starts with, like you were saying before, like you kind of get like this old grainy footage of you know, the main character Dallas's this kind of like family road trip he was on as a child, and basically it ends with him getting this, you know, real quick shot of a Frogman, and it is kind of funny. Like, it's, I don't know, I do think it is kind of like a great mix of, it looks kind of crappy but like also, I don't know, kind of cool. I think like especially fits like that, the kind of footage you would expect to see like on a 90s, you know, show about like some type of cryptid woods monster or whatever. But I don't know, I kind of like that they go from that to, you know, some really annoying like YouTube guy who's basically like trying to say why he thinks it's fake or whatever. It's just like really, it is kind of weird that like they're watching like some YouTube show and it just seems like a guy that was like gonna debunk the Frogman footage, but then he like weirdly like seems to crap on the guy's personal life a lot, which I don't know, that kind of seemed weird to me. Like I feel like, I don't know, if you watch like, you know, video footage of someone that's like, here's Bigfoot, like usually don't go like, oh yeah, the guy that shot this is kind of a failed director and he's trying to like do this or that.
Sadly, Tim, I don't think that's that weird for like shitty YouTubers, to be honest.
I mean, maybe I don't watch enough YouTube, I guess, but I did think it was kind of funny. And I was like, oh, this guy's like kind of going for the jugular here.
Well, this is the whole motivation. Is this motivates older Dallas to be like, oh, screw this, I'm going to go prove the Frogman's real. That's the whole motivation he has to go and do it. I mean, just on the opening though, which is like, because it lasts quite a while. It's a good, you know, I don't know if it's quite full 10 minutes, but there's a long sequence where it's them as kids. And the parents are like, there's lots of little hints that the parents are bickering and fighting, and it's clear later on in the movie that this was the last trip they had as a family before their parents split up, right? Like their parents were on a path to divorce. And I think one of the main things the movie does with the character of Dallas is that it kind of suggests that he's inherited some of his father's faults and how he's obsessed with certain things. And ultimately, by the end of the movie, the girl that he wants to be with, Amy, he's going to push away, just like his father pushed away his mother, right? You know, it's fine, whatever. Congratulations, you had a character, bit of subtext there. But it does spending so much time on it. I was thinking this was just like what the movie was going to be. I thought it was going to be these kids with the movie, and then when it cut to the YouTube thing, because you know, keep in mind this looked like they intentionally made this look like it was 4:3. It was like shitty recorded on a crappy digital camera from the late 90s or whatever it is, and it intentionally looks like shit on DV tape. And it cuts to the YouTube footage of this guy, and it's, you know, it's pristine 16:9, like, you know, HD, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting that they've went from that footage to this footage, and they're kind of, and I was like, you know, in a way I'm glad, because as much as I get why you want that opening scene to feel authentic, I think that would be tiring if the whole movie was like that. And then and then most of the movie was like that, because he decides he wants to film most of this documentary on that old camera. It does it occasionally. It'll cut to a second camera that's in widescreen, and or maybe someone's phone filming something. But 90% of this movie is shot in this really crappy looking 4:3, like intentionally distorted, hard to see what's going on style.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really bother me that much, just because, I don't know, it kind of lends itself to the found footage quality of it. If I'm trying to, you know, put myself in, you know, the idea that like, oh yeah, this isn't like, you know, a professional film crew or whatever, but I mean, I guess you can make the argument now that cameras are a lot nicer now, that they could have used that. But
well, it's not even so much that I wanted nicer quality, although it probably would have been nice to have a bit better quality, because we were complimenting Late Night with the Devil for having the feel of old footage without looking as bad as it actually would look, so that it still looks quite nice. I think that was a smarter way to do it, but even just in universe, this is dumb. It makes no sense to me. Like, your whole thing is you want to prove that the Frogman exists, so why is shooting on this crappy camera that can barely see anything going to prove? Like, if you want to prove, go out with a 4K camera that's going to like capture it and see it in the, you know, all the details. Like, capturing anything on this piece of shit is not going to prove anything. It's just going to further, you know, the narrative that you're intentionally giving shitty looking stuff because it's a hoax. So it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, that's fair. If I was gonna have any like explanation, I would probably say that, like you were saying before, you know, this guy is very clearly motivated by his obsession, and you know, his whole thing is trying to prove that his original footage was real. So there's probably something about him that maybe, you know, is attached to, you know, wanting to recreate that, you know, through like the same means possible. Maybe he has a little bit of like Arrested Development and he's still stuck in that place as that child and wants to use the same camera or whatever. But I mean, it's not like, you know, that is necessary to make the movie good. Like you, could have just, you know, made it look a little better.
I mean, I think it doesn't make sense from the character's decision. Even I get the sentimental aspect of it, the obsession aspect of it, but it just doesn't make any sense. That this, I thought at the very least, oh, he's bringing this camera, but that's not going to be the main camera. That'll be like the B-roll will be on this shitty thing, but the main camera, the because the first thing he goes and does is ask this friend who is a camera guy to come with him and do the shoot, who declines at first, but then decides at the party the next day that he'll just do it because whatever, I don't know. He gets drunk and gets all sentimental about their friendship. I don't know. But like I thought, oh, he's going to operate a proper camera that's going to capture things properly, and that's why they're going to be able to prove things. But then it's like, I don't know, he's just handling this mini like family camcorder. Like, this is the last thing you'd be shooting like a real documentary on. It would be silly for someone to use that to make quote unquote a movie in the time period of like 1999. The idea that someone would make a movie on that now, I mean, I guess it's more like a niche like retro thing now perhaps, but if someone came up and said they're making a documentary and that was the camera they pointed at me, I wouldn't take them seriously. I would think that they're just either very naive or taking the piss. So I mean, anyway, I didn't mean to rant.
That's a good point. Yeah, I can't really argue it.
Anywho, yeah. So we're introduced to Dallas, who's living with his sister, who's not a main character in this by any means. Like after she says goodbye to him when he's leaving the next day or whatever, that's it. That's the last we see of them. But we know that he's not got a job. He's living there and kind of mooching off of them. The sister's got a husband or boyfriend that is also living there, and we get introduced
very awkward breakfast conversation with him.
Yeah, which this again, okay, I'm kind of like tearing apart like found footage tropes here by going after this, but so Dallas is sitting down with his camera, right, and he's like filming himself eating cereal and basically saying, "Oh, I'm going to prove the Frogman, blah blah," and then walks the brother-in-law, and he's like, "Hey, what you doing?" And he stops talking to the camera and he turns to address him. He's like, "Oh, I'm just having breakfast," and they have a whole conversation about how it's the afternoon, blah blah blah, and the brother-in-law says, "Oh, I want to speak to you," and he sits down next to him. But he sits down next to him, sort of like slightly behind him, so that he's perfectly in frame of where the camera happens to be sitting on the table, as opposed to the opposite side of the table or the other like angle of the table where someone would actually sit if they were having a conversation. Instead, he spends this conversation kind of talking to the back of Dallas's head. It just didn't feel like a natural place for him to sit down to have this conversation. And it felt really forced to me just to have him sit there so that he'd be perfectly framed in the camera. When I'm like, it's found footage. He could just be off camera, or he could be whatever. Like, I don't know.
No, I mean, that's fair. Yeah, it's a little strange.
I mean, I don't know. It's stuck out. We find out also Dallas recently broke up with someone who I thought was Amy, the girl that we're introduced to. Turns out that's not the case. Him and Amy have been friends since college. They were all in film school or whatever together, and she wants to be an actress, and she's got a leaving party, which Scotty invites him to, because Dallas has not been keeping up with them. They go to the party, and they awkwardly kind of reconnect, and when she hears they're going on this trip, Scotty's like, "Hey, you should come too," and Dallas is like, "Yeah, why not? You could be in it. I'm making a movie. I'm doing a thing." But she's an actress though, so I was like, this is a documentary. What purpose is she going to serve as an actress? I guess she can be the presenter, I guess. In fact, probably one of my favorite bits of the whole movie is on the initial part of the trip to go to the town. Immediately Scotty and Amy are like, "Hey, what's your character?" And she's like, "Oh, maybe I'm like, so-and-so reporter from Action News." And then they go, "Yeah, no, what if you're a country singer who's like investigating the Frogman for reasons?" And she starts doing this like thick like Tennessee accent, and they go to a store and they get like a sort of tasseled like denim jacket and like a hat, and you can tell the entire time that Dallas is livid that they're doing this, that they're turning this into a bit, that there's a character, that he wants to do a serious man's documentary. He wants to get to the truth. The truth is out there, Tim.
Yes. I do like that kind of interaction between them. It makes for like some fun character dynamics, and I'd say like they're not like maybe not like the most like fleshed out or interesting characters like in a movie ever, but I do like that they gave him like enough quirks that it wasn't like just super boring, or I never really like found him annoying or anything, which I think can definitely be a problem with the shittier found footage movies we watch.
I can agree with that. I never really found the characters to be particularly annoying. Maybe one or two moments were a little bit, but nothing where I came out feeling like, oh, I hate these characters. They were fine. I mean, if anything, I'd just say that the dynamic they set up, which is that she's moving to LA, right? Amy's moving to LA. Dallas is clearly upset by this because she doesn't want her to go. They had like a night together where they had sex like sometime before he started dating his girlfriend. That's partly why the girlfriend split up with him, is because she found out that his like good female friend was someone he had sex with, and it made things weird. And it basically just sets up that they're both like saying to each other that, oh, that night was a mistake, it didn't mean anything, we should just be friends. But really there's like no, they both actually do feel something, and they both want to open up and talk to each other about it. Scotty kind of edges them on to try, and he basically lies to both of them by saying that the other one said, oh no, that night did mean something to them.
I mean, the Frogman basically represents their feelings for each other.
Elaborate, Timothy.
Well, I mean, that's why he's so obsessed with finding the Frogman, because really what he's trying to do is find his love for his friend. No, that's not what you got.
Not exactly, no.
And as we find out later, the Frogman is also looking for love.
Well, I mean, looking to breed. I don't know if love's quite the same thing.
Well, at least they make sure that he breeds in wedlock.
Kind of, yeah. The cult does do like a wed. I mean, we'll get to all this later, Tim. You're jumping ahead. You're jumping ahead.
Hopping ahead. What?
That physically hurt me, Timothy. It physically hurt. I love how you were green for this recording as well.
Of course. Frogman represent.
Ribbit, mother effer. So I mean, much of this like early stuff is like, honestly, I'm talking about the halfway point in the movie. It's them doing like interviews on the streets of the public, asking what they think of Frogman, meeting some colorful characters. Dallas like kind of flirts with the girl at the. I don't even know what food it was they were getting. They were getting food from like a window.
That was like ice cream or something, I thought.
Was it ice cream? Yeah. But like, this girl was kind of weird actually, because she's like, oh, hey, you're here for Frogman stuff? Well, I think everyone is either like a frog or a rat. I'm a rat. And I'm like,
I didn't get that.
What do you mean by this? Like, what, you mean like, is this a metaphor? Like, what are we talking about here?
I'm a frog for sure. I would never, ever be a dirty rat. I hate rats so much.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a rat in person, so I mean, I guess I just don't have
Consider yourself lucky.
I mean, I assume rats. I've seen a mouse, and then like obviously I've seen pets like gerbils and stuff, but I've seen like an actual mouse that was unwanted, like a mouse that snuck in to like
an unwanted mouse.
Yeah, like like a natural mouse from the outside had snuck in somewhere, kind of thing. I don't think I've ever seen a rat though.
Yeah, ugh, disgusting.
I associate rats with New York for some reason. Rats and cockroaches.
Oh, it's infested with them. They're everywhere. Ugh.
I'm actually curious. I'm going to... Rats in Scotland. Are they a thing here? I assume they are.
If not, that might be.
The commonly spotted species of rat living in Scotland is the brown rat. They have a grey-brown coloured fur, a pointy nose, large bare ears, and a long hairless tail. There we know.
Disgusting.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess I've just been lucky. I've not had to deal with rats.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever had like rats in a place where I've lived, like not on the inside. I definitely had mice. I had a squirrel in my house once growing up. No. No rats though, luckily, but which thank God, because they're just so gross and vile. I hate them so much.
I had a mouse once, to which the cat I had at the time just kind of stood there and stared at it. Didn't, attack it or anything you'd expect the cat to do. Just kind of like, who's this? Have I got a new little friend?
Oh, that's kind of cute.
Yeah. So, anywho, they talked to a bunch of people.
Now we're gonna get a bunch of comments about these weird rat lovers. Actually, rats are like really cool and sleep with me. And gross.
I feel like you went from like a 2 to an 11 there, Tim. Just it was a bit of a leap in that sense. So I think some of the key things that come out of all this is that this town sells a lot of merchandise based on Frogman. They profit on it. There's brochures. There's all sorts of things. And the other thing that is kind of relevant for a big thing later is that at one point, what's his face, Dallas asks like one of the people on the street, like, hey, have you heard any of these rumors that there's a cult that worships Frogman? And the person's like, oh, I don't know, I've not heard that kind of thing. Like, but it floats that idea early, and I'm like, okay, well, that's totally going to be a thing then later on, otherwise you wouldn't bring it up. But yeah, and they also mentioned tunnels and other things. Yeah, go ahead, go.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious where he got that from, because I feel like maybe I'm forgetting something, but I don't think he really mentions it early on.
No, I think he just, like, obviously he's done other research and he just kind of has some facts already. He mentions this old guy that got a photograph of the Frogman long before his footage, and he comes into the story later as well. But there's a montage of them just sort of like hanging out in the hotel. There's them asking all these people on the street for things, but that takes you up to about halfway through the movie, honestly, the reason why I know it's halfway is because I paused it for a bit, and I paused it exactly the halfway mark, and the halfway mark is when they actually go out to the forest area at night and they see something move, and it turns out to be like one of the dumb guys on the street they talked to earlier who's wearing like a really crappy outfit. And what it presents us with is that, oh no, there's no Frogman, but it's such a good tourist attraction that they have that someone actually pays this guy to go out there just to spook the tourists when they're around by like going around in this like really crappy looking Halloween outfit.
What a dream job.
I don't know, being out in the forest in the middle of the night doesn't sound that fun to me, but
the other thing like I would be scared of is, at some point some hunters are going to come looking for Frogman. yeah. Especially in like this, like, Ohio, rural area. I'd be very afraid for that guy's safety.
Yep. But Dallas is not happy with this. He feels belittled. He's upset. When they storm back to the hotel, he accuses the woman at the reception who gave them like a brochure and talked about Frogman, that she's in on this and this is bullshit. Frogman's real. This is a bunch of nonsense. And she kind of threatens them. Like, she says, you guys better leave town or you'll regret it or something like that. She said, I can't remember the exact line. But
she's like, I think she's like, leave like while you still can. She did actually have like a funny line here that made me laugh because it kind of goes against like found footage tropes. But yeah, as soon as like they start accusing her and stuff, she's like, turn that camera off. And they do like the typical found footage thing where he just kind of like lowers it and he's like, okay, it's off. And she goes, no, it isn't. I thought that was like pretty funny because like, so often, people are just so easily fooled, like, oh, okay, it's off. And then I'll just keep telling you my sinister plan or whatever.
He just points it to the ground after that. So you just hear the conversation. You don't see it.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, this isn't like the most original thing in the world, but I do kind of like, like an ominous town that is kind of hiding this little like sinister thing underneath, and like kind of, townsfolk telling the outsider, like, like be warned, like get out of here. Like, again, we're not dealing with anything new here, but I mean, I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't think I was in love with it. I think as soon as the cult thing came up, I'm like, oh, we're probably going to do that now. We're going to have a cult that worships him. And I just kind of feel like there's been so many like movies, both found footage and not, that have turned out to be like the town's actually just a cult that's evil. That I just kind of felt like, okay, I'm not excited by that. Like, I think I'd be more interested if there was no cult and it was just Frogman. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just curious how, like, how much can, like, I love the Frogman, don't get me wrong, but like how much can you really do with them? Like, I feel like they, you know, I mean, maybe it's just a little easier to add that kind of extra spice.
I mean, we're not even mentioned yet, Tim. One of the things that comes up already is that there's a belief that Frogman has telepathic powers, right? And he does,
Yeah.
like, because when the characters go back out into the forest, and they're sort of wandering around, although on their way there, a cop pulls them over and tells them to leave town because they've caused trouble and they've threatened the women at the hotel, and like Dallas like doesn't really want to like admit defeat and go home, and they're saying, hey, can we really go home? And he's like, come on, let's go talk to the old man who got the photograph first. So they go to the old man who got the photograph. He's not very friendly, but he does like tell the story of how he bumped into the Frogman when he was young, and he's like, hey, it won't matter after tonight anyway. Here's a map to where you can find where Frogman's actually supposed to be. And of course, they're supposed to leave town. They've been threatened with being arrested, but Dallas is like, please, I have to know. Like, if we go here and nothing's there, that'll be it. This is the last thing. And he's like, I promise we can go if this is like a dud. And Amy's like, you promise? He's like, yeah, I promise. So, of course, though, as soon as he said that, I'm like, yeah, you're not keeping that promise. This is going to keep snowballing into more absurdity. But they end up going out to camp in the forest that night. And this is where our first real stuff kind of happens, where Amy at one point goes searching for firewood and she's gone for like an hour. And when they find her, she's in like a trance. And then she like wakes back up and she thinks she's just left to get firewood like a minute ago. And she doesn't believe, oh, my throat's gone. She doesn't believe that it's been an hour. And they're like, no, it's been an hour. You've been gone. Like, what the hell? So, and they keep finding like this goo like over the trees, and they find it on their tents. You know, the frog's been splooging everywhere.
He's been sliming.
Yes. The two guys have a fight here at one point, but I mean, I think my problem is that once stuff actually starts going down, it's just the same old running with the camera. The camera's going all over the place. You can't see anything. Yeah. You get the briefest of glimpses of the Frogman's head or the figure moving in the distance, kind of thing. You know, I've seen these tricks done enough at this point that it's just not that exciting anymore unless you have like a really new, fresh take on it. Right. There is one great shot later on, right, when we're in the caves, but here there's nothing really that exciting to note. Ultimately, when they all get back together again, they just run for the car and like, okay, let's get out of here because that was scary. And he's like, let's see the footage. And Dallas is ecstatic. He thinks they've done it. They've got the proof. Like, no one can dispute this. That asshole James J or whatever his name is on YouTube, he can't say shit about it. I'm like, he will. He'll just say all of this is a hoax. He won't believe a single frame of this. But there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of suck because, yeah, I used to love watching any of these kind of, you know, like growing up in the 90s, like, you know, these investigative shows where they try to search for monsters or ghosts or whatever. And, you know, anytime they'd have like the grainiest little thing of footage that doesn't look like anything, but you watch it and you're like, oh, maybe that could be something now or whatever. And it sucks that like you just really can't get that anymore, because anytime you see something, it's like, well, obviously that's fake. Like someone just used CGI or it's camera tricks or whatever to make something. Like usually when I'm online, like I always get videos recommended to me that's always like someone, you know, like, oh, like the top 5 like scary monsters caught on camera or something. Then you watch it and it's just like, oh, this looks so bad. Like this is like, who would ever be tricked by this? And like sometimes it's just blatantly like taking scenes from actual movies. I remember I was watching like some random Facebook video or something. Like I was trying to kill a few minutes, and like, yeah, it was something like, 3 scary paranormal moments caught on camera. And then like the second little clip that they showed was just a thing from, it was just like a clip from The Visit, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. Like I even like looked at like people in the comments that are like, yeah, it's just a clip from that movie. That's not real. But yeah, you can't. It's a shame you can't trust people on the internet anymore.
Could you ever, Tim? Could you ever?
I know this one asshole that wrote me into doing a podcast for the last 5 years. Or
5? It's about longer than 5 now, Tim. I'm sorry to say. We're hitting double that very much at this point.
Dear Lord.
But here we are. The horror movies keep on coming. So do we.
That's true.
Did you not get the innuendo, Tim?
Explain it to me later. I can't.
Coming. There was the jizzing is coming.
Oh, the sperm joke. Got it.
Yeah, semen.
Yeah, little kids listen to this show, man. Come on.
No, they don't. Unless you're having your kids listen to it, you don't.
Oh, Daddy, please. We don't want to listen to the I don't know. What's a movie we reviewed?
The Hellraiser? What you want from me?
Daddy, we don't want to listen to the Hellraiser review again. I make some pretty good jokes on this one, so we're gonna listen to it.
Yeah, we have 400 or 500 episodes, so the idea that you're making them listen to the same episodes multiple times especially is quite funny to me. Oh dear. So they go back to the hotel and the woman's not there, and they're saying, hey, let's just go get our stuff and leave, let's just leave. But Dallas has to try and rub it in the woman's face. He has to we found truth, we found proof and footage, ha ha ha. And this is where the movie just kind of descends into and I feel like you like all this because the way you phrased this earlier is, the last 10 minutes goes, just crazy. But I was just kind of like, they find some cave systems under the hotel. The cult's got a bunch of robes on, and they're presenting Frogman with a young bride. Frogman has picked a woman that he wants to impregnate, and they're presenting her. Was this maybe the woman who was making the whole rat frog speech earlier? I thought it might have been.
Maybe. But I think the big thing is that it's that guy's granddaughter, right? The guy that took the photograph.
Well, I don't think that's her. I think she's already in one of the egg cocoon things.
Oh, okay, so this was just his revenge.
Yeah, I think that's just him just showing up because they've already taken his granddaughter already. Because obviously when they were at his house, he had a photograph of his granddaughter. So he's here. He whips off his robe and he's like, "It was me, Frogman. It was me all along, Frogman." But he has a gun and he starts taking some shots. But we see Frogman kind of come out and his tongue comes out and he's coming for his new bride. But it's soon after this when the characters run away where they find these big. Well, I thought they were eggs, but they're actual cocoons where his previous pregnant women have been put inside. So it's the old man's granddaughter comes out of this cocoon thing, and she's pregnant. So apparently, they don't have to these cocoon things just keep the pregnant woman alive until they're ready to give birth, I guess. Which begs the question: if he's impregnating women constantly, how many frogman creatures are around?
It's a great question.
Sure. How could there only be one if there's this many pregnant women just right now? Because he's presumably been doing this constantly for I don't know how many.
Maybe he just wants to eat the kids. Because some animals eat their children.
Yeah, maybe he's a bit peckish. Maybe that's it. Very odd. And I guess they sort of jokingly set up this idea earlier because there was a whole one of the interviews with one of the random people went on about the whole oh no, it wasn't an interview, it was Amy who was talking about it in the car. She was like, oh yeah, I don't know about the whole frog semen, human female, I don't think that's compatible. Turns out it is.
There was one guy they interviewed that said something about that I think alluded to that as well, because then they make the joke, they're like, oh, like so you're saying like Frogman F's, and he's like, yeah, Frogman F's.
Yes. I remember that now. Yeah. So yeah, we get the best shot of the movie here though is after this little bit. They stumble back into Frogman, and there's a shot of Frogman. He's grabbed Amy with his tongue, and the tongue's like wrapped around her. And I'm like, oh, more of this. Give me more. Like, that looks really cool. Frogman in action. In fact, there's a whole other aspect to this. So not only has he got telepathic powers that puts people into trances so he can grab them, right? That's happening. But they also talk early on about how some people have even said they've seen him fire off like lightning bolts. And someone says, you mean like a wizard? Do you think he's a wizard, Dallas? And he's like, maybe. And that's like one of the moments where like Bobby and Amy look at each other like, oh God, our friend's lost it. Like he's gone. But there's a moment in all this chaos where like you're not seeing anything clearly. It's like the lights are like flashing on and off or whatever. But every so often there's just this quick glimpse of Frogman. It looks like firing a lightning bolt. Like he's got like a wizard staff.
It's cool. I mean, I like this stuff.
It's one of these things where I'd forgotten they kind of seeded this earlier, because it is just one conversation where that I referenced there about magic powers like a wizard kind of thing, and I think he even says you might have like some sort of wizard staff, and I was like, oh, that's like a weird, and I just thought, oh, that's just them doing bullshit theories. But then this happens, and I'm like, well, what was that visual? What's this light that's coming from him? Oh, he's firing off lightning like he's a wizard. Okay, never mind. I guess that's just the thing. Because, all right, so there you go. And obviously, while they're in the forest, Scotty, the cameraman, he got covered in the slime, and he looked quite bad afterwards, and it's when they're in the caves here where he basically just starts to mutate or whatever from it, where his skin just all starts to change. So he's a goner. He doesn't make it. And one of the things that I, in theory, could have really liked about this movie is that Amy and Dallas get out, right? The old man helps them get out of the cave system, and they actually survive. And we actually do like a meta ending where the film, like the director credit comes up, and it cuts to a crowd and a theater clapping. And one of the things that I've always asked for with a found footage movie is, instead of ending it with the camera guy falling, dying, and just leaving on like a spooky shot, like why don't we get one where the film actually got finished and released? And that seemingly is what happened here. I just don't think it's actually that interesting the way it's happened. It basically just says that
nothing really comes of it.
Yeah, like it just kind of shows that Dallas got what he wanted. He was committed, he was obsessed, but he got his film, but he lost Amy in the process. Amy, it says at the end, hasn't talked to him in a year, and even though he tried to confess his love for her in the caves, that was one of the bits when they thought they were going to die. He's like, hey, if we don't make it out of this, I want you to know that night meant everything to me, and I love you, blah blah blah. So afterwards, when they get out, and he's like, hey Amy, at least we're okay, and he tries to comfort her, she's like, don't touch me. She doesn't want to look at him. She's like, no, you did this to us, you got our friend killed, this was all on you put us in this situation. So he's
fair.
yeah, it's fair. But so he's ruined this relationship, and it's implied that this is like an even more extreme version. Because remember at the start of the movie when it's like they're kids, right? Or he's a kid and he's with his parents and his sister, and like the dad keeps being obsessed about the bridge. It's like he really likes bridges, and he's like, hey, look at the bridge, guys.
Sure, yeah.
Now let's look at the bridge. Do I get a closer look at this bridge? And the mom's like, come on, stop talking about the bridge, let's get back in the car, we got a destination to go to. So yeah, I think that's kind of what they were doing with that. And there's even a mid-credit sequence where you see that I don't know if you saw this, Tim. Did you see the mid-credit sequence?
Was it just more of him like backstage with that like flute or thing or whatever?
Well, I think it was the Frogman's wizard staff, right? Was that what it was?
That was the staff? Oh, okay.
I think so. I don't know. I don't know what else what it would be.
Yeah, I remember they because like earlier when in the gift shop, like the guy points out like, oh, here's like a flute that can summon the Frogman or whatever, and I think later on he blows on it like at one point in the when they're in the woods, but
well, he blows, but Scotty does the fingering.
Of course. All right, Mr. Alien Covenant over here, super fan.
Whoa, I'm making fun of Covenant here. Do not misread this, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it. Maybe it was the staff. But,
No, you may be right. To be honest, like I just kind of came to that conclusion because I didn't know what it was, and I'm like, this must have been something he picked up when he was in the caves that I just didn't notice because it's all quick cuts and the camera's shaking all over the place. You know, so like, yeah, there's a couple of crazy moments in the caves, but most of the running around that I did not enjoy because it was just typical found footage. We're running around and we can barely see anything type stuff.
Yeah, I had fun with it, but I mean, I do wish that, yeah, they did more with it and tried to show more. You know, I'm guessing that they probably had very small budget, which is, you know,
I'm
probably,
sure. Yeah, I'm sure it was dirt small.
yeah. So like I get why you can't, you know, maybe do more over the top elaborate stuff, but yeah, it would have been nice to just have like a little bit more clarity with some of these things.
I mean, I'm not even asking for like, I mean, yeah, I would have liked more Frogman, but I'm not even asking for more effects or anything. I'm just saying like, give us some clearer visuals and like editing so we can understand maybe some of the geography of where they're going. It felt like at times it was like, oh, they're practically teleporting as far as we the audience are concerned because it just goes black for a second and it looks all shaky and blurry, and then there's somewhere else that we've not been. It's like, okay, I guess they've stumbled into where these egg things are or whatever. But it's not like we know they've went a wrong direction or whatever. It feels, it's just hard to follow, and it's not very satisfying to me as a result.
Unfortunately, yeah. I still enjoyed it, but again, like to me, I liked it, but it didn't, you know, it didn't go like over the top to like really wow me. Like, again, I guess I'm just kind of a sucker for the Frogman, so I'm already in the bag a little bit. But yeah, if we would have gotten more of it, or you know, maybe had some more interesting scenes later on or something, that yeah, it could have just gone from being like a movie that I'm like, okay, I had fun with it, to like something that I was like, oh my god, like this is so good, like people have to see this. So it's a bit of a shame, but
yeah, I mean, like it could be worse. Like I do think the characters are okay. They're not annoying. The dynamics and like the will they won't they of the man and the woman, like the main two characters, like it's nothing special. Like it's pretty standard stuff, but at least it is there. You know, I'll give it credit for that. There's a couple of fun moments where you do finally get to see Frogman, where he does look kind of cool for, I presume, a very low budget that they had. But again, most of it's just typical found footage, like running with the camera, and they intentionally make it look even worse than most found footage is because it's meant to be this old shitty digital camera from like 1997 or whatever it is. So as a result, it's going for this thing that just is intentionally trying to obscure things. And I think there's other movies that have done a better job of like trying to feel like they're old footage from an old camera, but like I mean, even just Blair Witch Project, you know, just like it's you know, it's just a better directed and constructed movie than something like this is. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably sounding a little harsher than I feel, but at the same time, like I really wanted to like this. Nothing would thrill me more than to come out of this saying, you know what, Frogman's a gem. I love that there's a good movie that's about a mutant frog man hybrid, but
right.
But it's just kind of, it's at best okay overall, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that. I honestly, I wasn't sure how you're gonna feel about it, so I'm glad that, you know, you're at least not like completely trashing it or whatever. It's, yeah, I mean, I think it's a very easy breezy watch. Again, if you're just looking for something to kill some time or whatever, like, yeah, it's not gonna make you like stand up and, you know, reevaluate what cinema is. So but yeah, I mean, I think it goes by quick enough. Like, you know, the characters aren't annoying, which I feel like that was like a big problem with like a lot of when we're getting that kind of studio era of found footage movies. I feel like a lot of the big issues there, other than a lot of really crappy CGI stuff was just really, really unlikable characters that you just did not want to be around. So
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
they're not annoying, but I will say they're not like the opposite end of the spectrum either. They're not particularly great.
Sure.
You know, they're fine. They're fine and offensive.
yeah,
You know.
no, that's totally fair. So yeah, like, I don't mind spending time with them, and then it's a short movie, so it's not like, you have to spend that much time, and then there's enough Frogman stuff at the end that it left me happy, but yeah, it's a shame, because definitely, there's something to the idea and like the look and design of Frogman that is really appealing. So it would have been cool if we would have gotten a bit more. But again, I'm not disappointed or unhappy with it. Like, I still liked it, but definitely could have been better for sure.
Yeah, I think I kept comparing it to Willow Creek, and I think if I was to compare them quality-wise overall, I think Willow Creek is arguably slightly better because it has one really effective scene where it uses sound really well in the tent, and I remember that being well done. Although this definitely shows you something more interesting in the small glimpses you do get of it. But anywho, Tim, what are you rating Frogman?
Yeah, I do wish I could go higher, but I think I'm landing at about a 6. I think, yeah, if, maybe I like Frogman enough that maybe I'll go as high as 6.5, but or should I say 6 point flies? I don't know.
Jesus
But yeah, I mean, I don't want to repeat myself, but just, again, I like it, but I do feel like I am biased towards a lot of stuff where it's just dealing with subject matter and stuff that I enjoy. So I'm already a little bit in the bag. But yeah, it's just a shame that it kind of falls into a lot of tropey territory that we've seen before. It doesn't do it bad. Like, I guess that's kind of the saving grace where, it's one thing if, you're going through kind of the typical tropes or whatever, but you're doing it in like a very annoying or uninteresting way. And this, it's like, all right, well, you're doing the tropes, but it's kind of at that bare level that's making it, fine enough to watch. But then the big thing for me though is I was just so happy that we actually, got to see the Frogman, because I think I might have even talked about it when we talked about the trailer before, but my concern was that it was going to be something which I guess I kind of do, but that where there wouldn't be a Frogman, but it would be like maybe just like a crazy guy in the woods or something, or you would get the briefest of glimpses, which, I mean, I still could have used more Frogman, but at least we do get like some, pretty good, clear shots of it. So I don't know, that left me happy enough, but yeah, I do agree though that I wish, it would have been a little better and done some things differently.
All right, 5 out of 10.
Okay.
I've said my piece. I've made it clear. I think it just lands firmly in the middle. There's a couple of nice moments. The characters aren't actively annoying, I wouldn't say, but it doesn't. It just suffers into too many of the tropes to really ever feel like it goes above that. So, yeah, 5 out of 10 for me. So that is Frogman. Next time on the show, it's the off week. It's a Patreon week next week. So next week, patrons will get an exclusive episode. We'll be starting our summer episodes of the exclusives, where over the next 3 months.
Do you know what that means? Shirtless.
I'm not going to promise that. Too hot for YouTube, one might say. But yeah, we're going to be looking at a movie called Death Spa next week. You go support us over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, get an exclusive episode once a month. The $5 tier up, you also get access to the Even More Stream segments, which you'll get 1 or 2 of a month, where we'll do like fun little things, like do like a little top 5, or we'll talk about like a Tim is prepared like a little thought experiment for the next episode, which is going out soon. So you can check out that. But that is some bonus stuff. You can help support the show by getting access to that. It helps keep the lights on, it helps keeps it coming. We wouldn't have been doing this for 500 episodes. I wouldn't have time or the means to record so many movie podcasts without the support on Patreon. So thank you very much to everyone who does support. But that is us. So yeah, that streams after midnight. We're soldiering on to episode 600, Tim.
Cool.
We're getting.
That's gonna be a biggie.
Well, this was episode 586, so we're
Okay.
we're in spitting distance of 600.
Should we do something special? Should we do like a like a ghost movie or something?
What do ghosts have to do with number 600?
Maybe we should let Matt pick the movie for 600.
Why?
I don't know, just to make it a little special.
I don't know if that'll be special at all. It'll probably be October, actually, when we hit 600, because we'll be doing extra episodes for October, so it'll probably be in that bunch that happens. We crush that threshold, so we'll see how that goes. But thank you very much for joining us, everyone. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.